So I woke up because I was, you know, that fright that you get, oh, shucks. I mean, and it wasn't true, and it was 3. So what am I doing at 3 o'clock in the morning? Go back to sleep? No. So unfortunately, the wheels are probably going to come up for some time today, but it's not going to be during this session. But welcome to everybody that has joined, and those who are still joining. Are a few things that I want to just double check with you. I want to just double check that. I just want to double check and see that everybody got. Oops, I don't want to leave that slide. Now we still have to do that slide. Let's go back to that particular slide. The question I want to ask you first is, I mean, no, for the rest of the chapter, there's 1 or 2 home exercises like the ones we did for last week with Virgin Active, for instance. There are 2 more ones that's in the textbook, but I know that everybody hasn't got the textbook yet. I therefore checked the resource that they used. That particular article is not available, but what I will do is I will, on these slides, not the ones that you're going to see now, because I need to make that modification. I ran out of time between classes. I'll do that change to the slides and upload it. The slides that you'll find in week 2 on chapter 2 would then on that page later on, when we get to that slide where it says home exercise, I will just give you a link that you can go to and obtain most of the information that's necessary for you to complete that that home exercise. By the looks of it, as I said, unless there's a lot of questions and issues, we might be finished with what was planned for this week, so we can actually maybe even discuss on Friday those 2 home exercises in class. It's nice to do it at home, but it's also then very nice to then get input because everybody has done it. That's the one thing. The other thing is, please drop me an email. Please drop me an email if you have not seen the announcement that I posted yesterday on the video that I've uploaded onto Canvas about the assignment brief. It's a 20-minute video that I recorded where I show you where to find the assignment on Canvas for those who are still not 100% sure to navigate themselves through all the pages, or 2 different alternative ways of getting to the assignment. And then also I went through the assignment question by question. I highlighted some of the issues that is on the general instructions that's important to me, but I also addressed question by question. If there's any questions regarding that, as I suggested, please read through it first or watch the video first before you start with the assignment, or before you even ask any questions regarding the assignment, because it's rather self-explanatory. So if you haven't received the announcement, it means that there's something wrong with your Canvas accessibility, and you need to inform our admin people about that immediately. I think it's Mrs. Barnos. I think she's got the authority to make those changes, the registrar. Any questions, anybody at this stage of before I just briefly summarize what we did on Monday, and dive into what we're going to do today? Anybody, anything that they want to contribute, anything that they've experienced that relates to what we maybe have addressed, on Monday in class? I didn't disappear. I just closed the door because there's a train running past here, and for a change, the trains are running on time. People know what we've done in chapter 2, and just to summarize again. Remember, there's an illustration on one of the previous slides where we had 3 big ovals. We've got the smaller one right in the center that says that's your micro or internal market, then or environment. Then we have the marketing environment, which is the immediate oval just around the center. And then we have our external or macro environment, which was the big oval within which both these other two ovals operate. We will later on in this session address the internal environment. In other words, the environment that we can control. And then we'll continue to address the external environment that we started off, the external or macro environment as it's referred to. Basically, the environment in which businesses and consumers and our competitors operate. And we said that because the macro or external environment directly impacts or sometimes indirectly impacts on our business performance or the performance of our business. For us, it's very difficult because, or for a business, it's very difficult because you cannot control it, you cannot influence it. You just have to prepare for the impact that it might have on your business. And as a result of that, we suggested that one of the most popular models to analyze this external environment to determine where you possibly have to change your strategy or even maybe your vision, maybe obtain more staff, maybe upskill some staff, maybe change the functions in different departments because of the challenges that the results of the PEST analysis have shown, because the PEST analysis is about your political, your economical, your social, your technological, and then the extra two is the environmental and the legal environment in which your business operates. Now, we've already had a look at the political environment, and that basically refers to specifically the political stability in a country. I know that Mozambique is in the news at the moment because of the terrorist attacks recently, as recently as a couple of weeks ago up in the north of Mozambique. Some countries go through elections, there's change of government. All these things add to the stability or the instability politically in a country.
Sorry, sir.
Yes, question there.
I'm not able to see your slides, sir.
I'm not able to. Oh, anybody else have the same problem? Because we're on slide number 8 now. Can anybody else see the slides? Okay, I've got the majority that indicate to me by a raise of hands that they actually do. Just check your connection again, please, to see if you switched on your video and audio function. Okay. Anybody else have any other challenges to see what's happening and to share what's happening? Please do. Just indicate to me when you've actually. I'm going to continue, but just indicate to me if you've sorted your problem out. Okay. Okay. Great. Well. To add to the political environment in which we find ourselves, or that impacts on our business indirectly, we also have the economy to deal with. And currently, regardless of what many people believe or would like to believe, we are in a recession. It's as simple as that. Times are tough. Interest rates currently are still low, but it cannot remain there for much longer. For the economy to survive, obviously, we have to change. We have increases in petrol prices. That's going to impact on the inflation. These are all factors, people. Apart from the monetary and the fiscal regulations that government basically set for themselves in the annual budget. These are all things that we have no control over. We don't have any control over the increase in the oil price, which impacts on the increase or possible increase in petrol prices. So at the end of the day, basically, it's always an issue. The economy will always be an issue. And that's one of the issue, environments that's most volatile, and that is for most businesses very, very difficult to always predict accurately. They pay good money for experts to use a lot of analytical models to try and predict as accurately as possible. But unfortunately, we do not have the luxury of a crystal ball. We can't see into the future. A plane can crash tomorrow into the Twin Towers like it did in 2001, and then all of a sudden it impacts on so many levels. It's like that that image that they've always that might be familiar with you. If there's if there's a pond or a dam with the water very, very smooth, the surface of the water very smooth, and you throw a stone into it, it makes it makes it little circles that actually like a and that's exactly what happens with the tsunami as well. Where the earthquake actually happens, the epicenter of the earthquake, it's not just restricted to that particular area. It fans out and affects a much wider area. And similarly with the impact of small little things, maybe in or not even in our country for that matter, that impact on the economy globally, because we obviously find ourselves in the global economy. So it's very often not just related to issues that's local. Another component, the social environment, that obviously we have to consider because it impacts on how we plan our business and how we operate as a business, is that we realize, I think, or haven't, but the clever people have, and those of you who read a lot will know that one of the greatest challenges that we are faced with at the moment is our growth rate globally of the global population. There are just too many people on this planet for us to actually be able to use all the resources that the planet offers us to address the needs of the growing population. Now, the growing population is always a challenge, but more than that also, we have different cultures, and if we just limit ourselves to our country, there are demographic forces and cultural forces that we have to consider in our social environment. People, we'll see in the next chapter when you deal with the consumer behavior, the way that the consumer behaves in more detail. But people locate or relocate themselves to certain geographical areas. And that impacts on our business. If you had a business, for instance, in a rural or in a rural town, for instance, let's say somewhere in the platteland, and you were doing very well, all of a sudden people started moving out of town and they moved towards relocated themselves to the urban areas where there's more job opportunities, or maybe in their same occupation they can just get better pay. People move to urban areas. That's why you'll find that the majority of your infrastructure relates to that as well. And that all of a sudden your town has become a ghost town and your business is suffering. These kind of things where people locate themselves, the age and the genders of and the levels of education of the people in the community that your business operate in. They are changing roles for male and female consumers, for instance. Usually, or traditionally, it was the male in the family is the one that goes off to work. He earns the money, brings back the money. The female stayed at home to look after the household, as well as the maybe the children that's included in that household. And that was your traditional roles. But people, we spoke about the growth rate of the global population. There are more females born every day, every week, every year than males. That's one of the reasons why this old stereotypes related to females have changed. So the role of the genders have changed. Females also now are, for many years now, as female rights have improved, they also now have professional careers and aspirations. They educate themselves beyond school, where it wasn't the case traditionally for a couple of decades ago. Now that impacts on how your business operates, because you may be targeting your marketing efforts, or have targeted your marketing efforts at the female or at the gender, because they are the ones usually doing the shopping for the household. Now all of a sudden you've got the changing roles, and there are equal number of males doing that kind of shopping, and then also as a result of the changing environment, as a result of the global pandemic, more people are working from home, their shopping hours are different. These are all things, people, that indirectly impact on your business, and you can't control it. You can't control the growth rate of the population, and that's one of the reasons why your social environment is such a it's such an interesting but difficult environment to actually manage and prepare for, because we're dealing with human beings, and the one thing we do know about them is that they're unpredictable, because often culture is the culture of a society is referred to as the personality of that society, and it touches on issues like language and religion and your customs and your different ways of doing ththings, and it's different from one culture to the other. It's different from one generation to the other. I know that one of the biggest challenges that a lot of businesses are faced with at the moment is that you find that they have to do multi-generational management. That means that in a particular business, your management at the top, usually people, if they have climbed the corporate ladder, they get to a management position or a senior management position around about the ages 45 to 50. Those people will qualify as if they are categorized by generation, they will be seen as baby boomers, or those were the people born after 1945. Or they might even be Generation X. Those are people born from about 1965 to 1980. But they have people in their staff, maybe on junior management level, and just maybe as a general employee, who are from Generation X, Y, and Z, and thankfully not of Generation Alpha yet, because they were born after 2012. But you have to now manage all the different traits and characteristics that those different generations bring. So it becomes very difficult for you to manage your business. So yes, people, we can go into this forever, but I think you get the message. It is, it's extremely important, and it's a topic, the social environment, because it specifically deals with an impact on the consumer, who you want to buy from your business, and therefore it's rather unpredictable. But you have to be very sensitive for this particular environment, because it has such a vast impact on, or can have such a vast impact on your business. Then we all know that without a doubt, people, changes in technology, I mean, embrace it or just go, because I mean, unfortunately, there's no alternative. You cannot say, "Oh my word, I can't do this," or you have to just find a way. I know for Generation Z and Generation Y and Z, It's not a great challenge, I think, even for Generation X or late Generation X. They're quite familiar with technology and the modern technology like the Wi-Fi, smartphones and stuff like that. Because I mean, you don't know anything else. You have only read about it or maybe heard about it because it was passed on from people of that generation. But to you, there's nothing else. I mean, what are people talking about? Industrial revolution. Next industrial revolution is this information thrust that we are experiencing at the moment. No, what do you mean? I mean, this is what we used to. The fact, however, is as a result of technology, a lot of the processes that is used, production processes, have been automated. It's become so scientific that I think primarily because the consumer, especially the generation Y and Z, the millennials and you guys currently are, they want instant gratification. You want your problem solved now. You want your product now. You don't want to wait. What do you mean? I mean, delivery is going to take 24 hours. Isn't there option to do it quicker? You, as the current consumers, I think as a result of the complete information overload that you receive on a daily basis, that leads to customer or consumer fatigue, as they refer to it, means that you are sifting through such a lot of information on a daily basis, and you're processing it, and you're keeping the things that you like and that's important to you, and that basically would satisfy the need that you have at that moment, and then you move on. This is it. I mean, we don't dwell on things. Modern technology is here to stay, or technology is here to stay. We just have to ensure that our businesses, in the way in which we do things, and also grow at the same rate. We cannot discard it and say, sorry, we're not a high-tech company. When then you won't be a company in the very near future. Unfortunately, we have to embrace this as much as we like it or not. That's unfortunately the truth, because it always in certain extent has the advantage that it improves the way in which we do things. But I can remember when we were in hard lockdown and I was doing some research for another college, that one of the topics I was busy with at that stage was marketing, and specifically personal selling in lockdown and post-lockdown. Because I mean, what did people do during those early lockdown stages? Business couldn't just. Business had to continue. Otherwise, there won't be any business when the pandemic has passed. So, just a message out there: make sure that your business is up to date with what the technological requirements are. Otherwise, you are going to be left behind, and later on you are just going to disappear, and they are going to make a Jurassic movie on your business, because it will be extinct. Legal environment ties in a lot with often with the political environment, in the sense that many of the laws and regulations are done by the ruling government of the time in a particular country. But then there are also general rules and regulations that specifically focus on protecting your consumer, or protecting the consumer, protecting you from your competitors. In other words, ensuring that there's fair competition, and then also protecting the products that you are producing, or the services that you're offering. People, there's no specific requirement here that you have to know all the different acts and that we list in the textbook. But it is important for us to know at least the different categories that's referred to the protection of the consumer, protection of fair competition, the protection of the products that you are producing, as well as then obviously the general protection of the general society, which is very, very important. And the next environment section that we'll deal with is actually the environment itself, because we know that we have to be very, very sensitive towards those issues if we want to really excel as a business. So just be aware of the different categories. I think as you progress through your studies and through life, you will definitely experience some of these acts that's in place. The majority of these acts is to protect the different parties involved in business. Not just businesses, because that will be unfair, and not just the consumer, because that also won't be fair. It needs to be everybody in general in the community, and then also within the community itself, what particular role you play, either as a business or as a consumer. Anybody, any questions? Anybody had any experiences in this regard, or previous exposure to any of these acts? Well, that's all good. Rightio. Let's see. Where do we find ourselves? We live on a planet in our solar system called Earth. We have been dealt with natural resources. Initially, there were just a couple of people. We have progressed over centuries to have a substantial population on our planet. And unfortunately, the rate at which we have used the resources, the natural resources that was available to us, has almost been completely depleted. That's where the challenges lie. We have to make sure as businesses that, and that very much is often to protect the environment and to ensure that we can continue as businesses and continue as consumers and human beings to live in peace and harmony on this planet. We governments need to often put certain regulations in place to protect, like we said on the previous page or previous slide, to protect the environment, to protect the consumers, and to protect the businesses. The biggest challenges we are faced with at the moment that we have no control over, but that we can not convert to where it was. We can't take it back to the state that it was. It's impossible. What we can do, however, is that we can ensure that the processes that we use, how we use our resources, how in our production processes, the materials that we use, is it environmentally friendly? Is our production processes using more natural energy than anything else? All of these aspects, and taking care of our environment, collectively, we can make a difference. We can at least stall the process. We don't want it to actually become a bigger challenge than it is currently, because already it is a very difficult challenge. Most recently, I read that I think I'm not exactly sure. It's definitely going to happen in future, or will be more accessible in future. But by using the biggest, or by realizing that the biggest energy source in our solar planet or system is the sun, and we know that some panels generating energy and electricity for households have become very popular. But the latest technology has led to the development of windows, see-through windows. A normal window that you'll have and that most houses have and buildings have would be of such a nature that it actually acts as a solar panel. In other words, it's basically a solar panel as we see it now, but you can see through it, and the natural light will still come into the room or the building. Okay, just get Andre back on there. It appears that there's obviously some connection issues with some of you. I think I said to my son yesterday when we drove back from college home, he started talking about load shedding. I said, you've got to be very quiet and whisper that word and not say it out loud, because as soon as you start thinking about load shedding, it will start happening. And lo and behold, yes, it happened last night, and we were back to, although just a limited load shedding during the night, but yes, that was one of the other reasons why I didn't go back to sleep at 3 o'clock at night, because I knew at 4 o'clock my electricity will be off until 6 o'clock. But people, that's something that we cannot control. Again, it's one of those things we have to make plans on around that particular challenge. That's just one of those things. But I don't want to be a naysayer, or I don't want to be somebody bearing bad news, because I do not have enough information on that subject. But I'm pretty sure that where there's, and I always believe where there's a little smoke, there's definitely somewhere a fire. So I'm pretty sure that we can brace ourselves for some load shedding in the very near future. We are nearing winter in Cape Town as well. We all know that more people use more electricity, or electricity consumption is higher in winter months. Also know that the upcountry winter is a tough one. It's a very cold one. I grew up in the northwest, or for a number of years I was in the northwest, and below zero temperatures is not uncommon to you who grew up or who live up in the north. But those are the things that we unfortunately have to just bear with, and it impacts again on our business indirectly. But we just have to make a plan and forge new plans to ensure. Immediately when load shedding was announced last night, I checked my schedule. I have a printed version in my study at home next to my monitor. I have it on my phone, 3 apps that I use. I immediately check all of those. What would the impact be if load shedding is extended for the rest of the week? That's just, we've become used to that. It's second nature to us. We don't even complain about it anymore. And I think we're all sometimes thankful that it's not the same as it was in 2016, where all of a sudden the light switch is off and you think, okay, right, this is right, something happened. Somebody maybe drove into a pole somewhere, and then we were exposed to load shedding for the first time, and it wasn't as regulated as it is currently. You didn't know when it was going to happen, and you didn't know how long it was going to last. So we've come a long way since then as well. The people, again, it's just testimony to what we have so far covered in our total external environment or macro environment. It's such an almost unlimited factors and forces that impact on our business indirectly that we cannot control, but we also can't wish it away. We just have to make a plan about it. People, I'm not going to dwell on the home exercise. I'm just going to repeat for those who have not been part of the session from the start. I'm going, when my last class is finished just after 12, when I get to my home office again, I'll search for proper links to this particular article. I went to the back of the textbook to find that particular source, but the link was not working. So I want to find alternative ways. I will upload it onto this particular page of the slides. Slide number 12, that will be on Canvas, replacing the one that's there now, because it would be an updated version. I will add links so people can access those articles through those links, and then they can have access to the information that's necessary to complete this assignment. But basically, it's a straightforward assignment where we're going to be requiring you to do a PEST analysis on Woolworths. They're just providing you with information specifically. But I think if you go onto the Woolworths website, I think it's probably www.woolworths.co.za or something like that. You'll probably find enough information that will enable you to see how they cope with all these different macro environmental challenges, because this is basically what this exercise is about. Okay, anybody, any questions at this point? We're all still on the same page? Or might be on different pages. We're all still on the same screen. Okay, slide number 12 we're on, and we are progressing because the memo also, which I include because it's a home exercise. This is not an assessment. There is nothing to hide. I just want you to do the exercise, and then you'll find, if you go to the next slide, you'll find the memo for that particular activity. And again, it's not a big issue that you know that the answers are there as well, but it's still worthwhile to go through the exercise because it exposes you and prepares you to regularly do these small exercises, and then later on it becomes a habit. And by the time you have to prepare for your exams, you're not anxious because you do not have to have 6 chapters that you have to go through. You have small little chunks that you have along the way have ticked, or boxes that you have ticked. Right, we've dealt with the external environment. We know that it's a challenge because we cannot control it, but it influences our business and how we do our business and how we market, because we are still busy with marketing. Now, the internal environment, those factors and forces inside the business that we can actually control. These are more the things that sometimes people tend to focus on, because they believe if they have the right mission, the right vision, objectives, and resources, they will be able to deal with all the challenges that the macro environment or the external environment will offer. Now, yes, I suppose to a certain extent that is true. There's an image that is missing that I know was in the original slide that I will just add again. When you look at your business, the internal environment, or the micro environment as it's called, there are specific aspects that needs to be addressed. You must have a clear mission. We'll go into detail on each of these just now, but there must be a clear way forward. You must have some idea of what you want to achieve 5 years from now, 10 years from now, because no business starts and says, oh, we'll see how we do this month, and then we change our plans for next month. No, you start with a medium 3 to 5 year plan. You break it down, yes, with different objectives, strategic objectives, on how you're going to achieve it. And then you obviously, part of the internal environment is that you very carefully have to, according to your specific needs and strategies and objective, you have to find the right skilled people to do that, to enable you to be to function as a business. What resources, staff, equipment, facilities, buildings, delivery vans, whatever. What do we need? What do we need to function as a business? That's all part of the micro internal environment that we can control. If you break down those individually, just to give you an idea, it is very important for us to at this point. Oops, Daisy, sorry, slip of my finger. My apologies for that. Let's go back to slide number 16. The mission of a company, and this is obviously this is an obvious, favorable, favorite question to provide you as students with a case study where you have to identify the mission, and then also the vision for the company, the objectives, and then also the strategies, because all of these collectively is what's going to make your business successful or not. As I said, your mission is a sort of a glance into the future. If you had the luxury of a crystal ball, this is what you will see in that crystal ball. You have to ensure that you have a clear vision, a vision that provides you with a reason for the business existence. It gives you something to work towards. It's something like a legacy that you want your business to leave if you're not there anymore. So it's the big picture. It's also important that you have a clear vision, because your employees must buy into it. It gives structure to what they have to do on a daily basis. It provides you as management with a clear picture of exactly what resources you require to be able to function as a business. And you can control that. Nobody else employs the people that work for you, but you. A next very important step would be to set very clear business objectives. You have to find small little targets that you want to achieve. Targets that you're able to evaluate, because there's no point in setting yourself a target and then you don't know when you've reached or not, because you do not evaluate the progress. And then thirdly, in the internal environment, it's extremely important that that you look at what capacity your business have. Do you have all the resources that's necessary? Do you have access to all the resources that's necessary? And I think just recently I drove past a commercial park, office park, business park, and it was rather empty, and it almost was starting to get a ghost town effect, because a lot of businesses during the pandemic last year realized that, you know what, we can be equally efficient from remote locations. Like we'd much rather invest in paying for a staff member's uncapped internet, fast fiber internet connectivity at home, than pay X amount per square meter for office to rent space that our business used to have, but realize because of the changes we don't really require anymore. Business can be done in many ways, and I think my eyes opened for the first time when I went to New York, which especially in Manhattan, where everybody says there are gazillion things happening every second, and that is true. I've never seen as much activity happening continuously. There is no Monday, Sunday, Wednesday. It's just the next day. And it happens all the time. It's non-stop. I took a photograph the Monday evening, the Tuesday evening, the Wednesday evening, and the Friday evening and sent it home to my son. I said, guess what evening is what evening? Because it looked exactly the same. It never stops. It never shuts down. And I think, obviously, that was a couple of years ago. That was prior the pandemic, but it's almost as if they are constantly changing and thinking all the time, and adjusting all the time as the customers are. And we know from the first chapter, the changes that has happened over the last decade resulted in businesses being more customer orientated, focusing on the customer, what the customer needs, and then we'll go out and make something that will satisfy that need, because then we know that we'll get that sale. The fact is that this puts a lot of pressure on your resources and your skills of your business, because it has to, you either have to get new and more resources, or you need to upskill the resource, the employees, and train the people that you have currently. But people can also only do so much. There's only so many hours in a day. I spoke to a friend of mine in Dubai the other day, who's also in education, and that was after 11 o'clock at night, and that was the first time that they got home. I said, well, what happened? No, teacher-parent meeting, because the schools, as a result of the climate there, start a bit later, and they obviously run into early evening. They still have the same number of hours in a school day, for that matter, but the days are just much longer. I mean, I can remember from the time I was in the UK as well. It's really something to get used to in summer, that by 10 o'clock at night it's still light outside. You don't feel like going to bed, although it's 10 o'clock already, and unfortunately, that's just the way it is. The reverse is obviously true in winter as well. I think there were days when I got up at 4 in the morning to get to work, because I had to catch 2 trains, one underground and one above the ground, and 2 buses to get to work. And when I left work around about 4 in the afternoon, it was dark already, the lights were on. So yeah, it's totally different. And I suppose in our country, many of you have found yourself, probably could have found yourself in similar positions so far in your lives. The fact is, all these things, people, we're almost getting to the point where we want to maximize the 24 hours in a day. It's unfortunately, we're still working with human beings, and their capacity at some point is not like a robot that unfortunately just reboot or upgrade. Your employees, your human individuals who work for you, is an extremely important resource that makes your business basically work. But you have to manage them very carefully to ensure that you get the best out of them. When we set our objectives, which is one of the most important things for any business, regardless of what type of business you're in, if it's formal or informal, if it's a national business or if it's just a local business, when you set objectives, you have to ensure that you always apply the SMART principle. Your objectives that you set for your business must be specific. It must be clear. This is what we want to achieve. We want to increase our annual turnover by 5% from this year to next year, or 10% or 15%. We want to increase our profit with 15%. Be very specific. It also must be measurable. It can't be vague. You must be able to evaluate it on a regular basis. I know a lot of businesses do it on a quarterly basis. That means every 3 months to check and still see if they are still on track. If not, it's rather intervene at that point and change it upward or downward. We don't want to wait till 12 months or go on, or even longer, and then realize, oh, maybe we should have changed our plans and objectives a bit earlier on. It must be achievable. In other words, if you're going to expect people to work 18 hours or even 6 days, or maybe 7 days a week for that matter, sometimes they're not going to last. So you have to ensure that these goals are not unrealistic goals. In other words, that they are achievable. We want to increase our profit ratio with 150%. Okay, well, it's probably not going to happen. So that's an unachievable, unrealistic objective. It needs to be relevant to obviously your business, and very importantly, it needs to also be time-based. We want to achieve a 5% growth within the next 12 months or 18 months or 24 months. It must be set, because if it's time-based, it also makes it measurable. Always apply your SMART principle when you are setting the objectives for your business, because these are things that you can control. Nobody else can tell you that you can't make a 50% profit. If you've set that as an objective and you've applied the SMART principle and you believe it can happen and it's relevant, and you know what? There's no reason why we can't do that. So you set these objectives, you control it because it's part of the internal environment, and therefore put effort into this because you can control it. Right. When you do, and we've actually done with a PEST analysis, we've done a sort of a environmental scanning, because environmental scanning refers to the process where you identify, gather, and analyze information on the changes that happens in the environment, and how you can react and counter that. When you refer to the marketing environment, it's the environment that that we find sort of between the, if you can, in your mind, take yourself back to that illustration of the three oval-shaped, or that oval-shaped illustration or image. It's the one that finds itself between the macro and the micro, because that's where your competitors lie, and that's where your distributors lie, your intermediaries, who's going to assist you, who's acting in a supportive capacity to your business. That's also where you find your consumers. All of those you have some control over. You can influence them, but you cannot control them. So there's limited influence that you can offer the components of the marketing environment, but there's unfortunately no way in which you can control it. You cannot force a customer to buy your products. You cannot change the objectives and the mission of one of your competitors. These are things that, again, remain outside of our control, but to a certain extent, through proper marketing and marketing communication and good communication with our customers and good service to our customers, we can, to a certain extent, influence, especially the consumer as a component of the marketing environment. Can't really do that much about your competitors. You can only be aware of what they do, because they sometimes come up with bright ideas and they think, oh, that's not bad, but I think we can actually do this better. Let's do a twist on that, and then we get another very important competitive advantage, maybe. We've touched on the SWOT analysis, because the SWOT analysis is something that we do specifically to determine internally what our strengths and our weaknesses are, and externally what potential threats there are and which opportunities are waiting for us to discover. The other day I was Googling, because I'm busy with some research for some other modules, and I got to a site where basically you can just type in SWOT analysis and then the name of the company. Adidas, Nike, McDonald's, and they give you a proper SWOT analysis of what that was conducted by that particular company or on that particular company. People, above the line, strengths and weaknesses, the two components of the SWOT, two of the four components of a SWOT analysis, focuses on the internal aspects that you can control and influence. You know what your strengths are. You want to make them even stronger. You know where your weaknesses lie. You want to improve on them and maybe convert them to become a strength. And then externally, below the horizontal line, the opportunities and threats lie. I think one of the exercises, or the exercise that we're going to do, and we're going to do the same by supplying you a link to be able to access the information to do your home exercise number 2 is to determine or to do a SWOT analysis on a business to determine where the threats and possible opportunities lie for us, because that will help us in not controlling that component, but ensure that we include that in our strategy and in the setting of our objectives, for instance. SWOT analysis is not something that is limited to the business environment. It's regularly done by sport businesses, because sport has become a business. So sport teams do SWOT analysis on not just themselves, but also if you do a SWOT analysis on let's say, for instance, Andre, I know you're a Blue Bull supporter. Let's do a SWOT analysis on the Blue Bulls, and they've probably done that. The Bulls have probably done a SWOT analysis, because up to the winning last year, the trophies, they haven't won anything in more than 10 years. So they probably did a SWOT analysis at some point and said, listen, where's our strengths? And let's if we have lost some of our strengths, let's get it back. And similarly, they probably did that with where's our weaknesses? Oh, maybe we need players with experience. Maybe we've got all the skills, but we do not. The people don't have experiences, and when they come to pressure situations in the game, they don't know how to react because they haven't got the experience. Where's our opportunities? What can we do that the others don't? That maybe we decide to change our game plan, where traditionally in certain situations, positions on the field, it actually would have been different. That comes as a surprise. That's part of the strategy. Maybe working out new moves. One of the surprises and opportunities last year, I think, for the Bulls were moving Colonel Hendricks from wing to inside center, and he excelled in that position. So it's where's the threats? In other words, we are now looking at our opposition. Where are their strengths? In other words, their strengths would be our threats, and how can we prepare for that? So people, it's not just something that's limited to a business environment. You can apply it to any situation. In your own life, you can actually do a SWOT analysis on yourself to see where your strengths and weaknesses lie. Where's your opportunities? You are getting a great opportunity to study after school. Not too many people get that. Use it. Where does my threats lie? Maybe my threats lie in the fact that I don't always have in my home environment access to electricity or uninterrupted Wi-Fi, for that matter. I saw last night with one of on one of the other courses, students were writing online term tests, those second and third years that started in February already, and the submission time was 2:15. Now it's a 2-hour paper, and the paper is available from midnight till midnight tonight. That student wrote that paper just after midnight to complete the 2 hours and submit it by 2:15 a.m. And maybe it's because the package, the data package that she's on, is on the offers that those hours as cheaper rates. Maybe that's the only time that maybe they're sharing the internet with different users and only can have people. We all have different scenarios, but I think it's probably sensible to regularly in your own life also do a SWOT analysis on yourself. You can do nothing. You can't do a PEST on yourself, because I mean you can't change Eskom's policies and the way they think and the way they do business. You're going to get load shedding, and you just have to deal with it. SWOT analysis, we know that we can, because the internal component, the strengths and the weaknesses, we can control, we can manipulate, we can change. Anybody, any questions at this point? Nothing. We're all good.
No, sir.
Then we're done. I'm going to therefore change this particular slide that's on Canvas. I'll do it within an hour after I leave, which should be around about 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock this afternoon. I'll upload it immediately. They will have links for you to complete assignment 1. Assignment 1. Where's my mind? To complete home exercise 1 and home exercise 2. And then from home exercise 1 and 2, we discuss those as a sort of a summary towards at the end of the week on Friday when we get together again. Remember, Friday, like last Friday, it is an earlier start because our periods on a Friday are shorter. So your second period on Friday would start at 9:10 and not 9:25. Just make a note of that if you are not familiar with the routine yet. Well, if nobody has got anything to ask or add at this point, I think we've reached the end of today and today's session. I trust that you are all good. Thanks very much for those who have joined. And I'll end the recording here, and then we'll chat again on Friday. And I hope you have a wonderful Wednesday.